Mr. Ong Teng Koon.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the budget. We frequently hear residents complain about the cost of living, and although official data doesn't show high inflation, I'm sure many of us here in the House have our residents telling us that the cost of living keeps going up, but their income cannot keep up. I have met many residents who are struggling to cope, and these are young couples who are just trying to start up a family, the elderly or needy families, and they are squeezed because basic costs such as food, health care, and education keeps rising. I feel it is not fair to dismiss their concerns as purely the result of unrealistic expectations, because they are certainly not benchmarking themselves to the EIU survey, which was crafted mostly for expats. On the contrary, they visit JB and often wonder how come prices in Singapore are so high. I have also met residents who are able to cope, but they are unhappy because they are running harder than ever just to stand still. They feel they cannot even achieve what their parents have. They lament, "We are university graduates, but our standard of living doesn't seem to be better than our non-graduate parents, who could afford bigger houses and more luxuries when we were growing up." For them, every generation doing better than the previous generation is not happening. 一代好过一代 is not happening for them. But 一代好过一代 must be the objective of every government. The Minister for Finance has assured us in his budget speech that he's keeping a close watch on the cost of living, that he's alleviating cost pressures in healthcare and education, he's keeping the Sing dollar strong to maintain import prices, and he's providing support for the needy and the low-income households. But I feel the most important thing that he might have done for Singaporeans is to keep our taxes low. This allows us to keep money in our pocket and decide how to spend it, rather than him deciding how to spend it for us. When I was working in Japan, in an ironic way, I was unhappy every month when I got my paycheck, because 50% of it would automatically be deducted for taxes. And it was the same in the US when I first started working, more than 40% of it in taxes. And after paying the rent and keeping the lights on, I had little to show for it. Singapore must not be like that. Mr. Speaker, for many years now, we have talked about our aging population and low TFR being existential issues for the survival of Singapore. Today, I'd like to focus specifically on young families starting out. First, their costs are going up. And second, their income is getting very volatile. On the cost side, they face intense pressure at this stage of their lives. They have to cope with wedding expenses, paying for the house, planning for kids, trying very hard to afford a car. But on the income side, there seem to be fewer stable jobs as more companies move towards contract and freelance. Retrenchment is also no longer rare. Many workers in the private sector not only compete against Singaporeans in what we know as meritocracy, they also compete against nationalism of foreign-owned or foreign-run companies. And they are fighting forces beyond their control. And they might not be doing well, not because they are not trying hard enough. We must put ourselves in the shoes of such workers and not just simply dismiss their concerns. So in such a situation, to delay or avoid having children would be altogether a very rational response. Children are expensive. They raise the minimum income any household needs every month. And from my conversations with residents in Marsiling UT, this is the main contributing factor towards our low TFR. There have been countries that have been successful in reversing a low TFR. Sweden was 1.5 in the 1990s, and they have gone back to 1.8. And their experience suggests that addressing cost of living issues, particularly the cost of raising children, is important. Policies in Sweden and Norway make it easier for mothers to both work and have children. Research shows that Swedish mothers are the least conflicted and the most contented. Childcare is affordable and of an acceptable quality, and lower income inequality puts parents under less pressure to spend on enrichment and tuition to push their kids to succeed. In Singapore, awareness of income inequality has given recent attention. Awareness of income equality has risen, and this has given recent attention to this topic. Ms. Teo Yo Yen pointed out that this is what inequality looks like, and this topic has become coffee shop talk. Parents are forced to spend on tuition and enrichment in an arms race to bring up the ultimate student. While we can't fix inequality and TFR with a magic wand, we need to help parents to stop feeling like they are not being good parents just because they are not spending thousands of dollars every month. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make several suggestions in this debate for the government to consider. First, preschool fees. Residents complain that the current structure is too complicated. Instead of a working mother subsidy, they would rather pay less upfront. So instead of paying the gross and then claiming a subsidy, can they just pay net? Would it be possible to charge just $10 a month for preschool without means testing like what we are doing in primary school right now? The government has said that different providers of preschool service is essential to safeguard consumer choice. But many cynics would also point out that the only provider of primary school service is the MOE. There is not much choice, although there are many schools. There is a growing awareness that preschool affects our future performance, and hence it's important. So let's put our money where our mouth is and make this truly affordable. Second, childcare and baby care options are currently expensive, and that is assuming you can even find a vacancy. There are cheaper alternatives, but quality is often not up to expectations. Some couples are lucky and may have able grandparents to help them out, but for those who do not, it is very difficult to have kids. Government subsidy needs to be increased in this segment. Third, provide subsidized school bus. Even the little things add up. It is amazing to me that we are able to read a story in the Straits Times about exorbitant bus fares, and Straits Times highlighting the need for better regulation. While some might say that this is a small amount, I would say that each straw adds up until the camel's back breaks. Fourth, make it easier for mothers to choose between work and motherhood. As Sweden, Norway, and others have shown, work-life balance for mothers can boost TFR. At a minimum, mothers would benefit from being allowed to work remotely and to have flexible hours. But how many employers are enlightened? Or do they need a bit of government nudging in the right direction to do so? A more direct solution is paid maternity leave, including a portion that is being funded by the government. Norway has up to 35 weeks of government-funded maternity and paternity leave. We have to ask ourselves, what is the value of each additional child to Singapore? Would we consider this to be a worthwhile investment for our national resources? Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, good government is about balancing priorities. If low fertility rate is an existential threat to the nation, then it should be given the highest priority. Singapore has thrown everything but the kitchen sink at this problem. Perhaps it is time to throw the kitchen sink. Mr. Speaker, I support the budget.